And it's time for Business Express with
Yeah.
Rotus. Good morning, Rotus.
Morning. Good morning, Ayo. Let's go. Let's just go.
Let's just
These
go.
ads,
Yeah.
man. These ads.
But they pay the bills.
Yeah, the ads pay the
Yeah.
bills.
Now,
Yes.
Rotus isn't here alone. He's with Damilola from ARM. Good morning,
Hey, good
Damilola.
morning. Good to be here today.
Good to be here. Now, Rotus, I hand over quickly.
Yes, yes, yes. Let's jump into it really quick. All right. Good morning, everybody. So, stock market has some small reprieve. I think it was 0.25% appreciation on Friday, but the market is still very bearish. Dami, we're talking about the first quarter performance of the Nigerian Stock Exchange. This first quarter has been down by what 1.24%. Yeah, and there's just doesn't seem to be any type of catalyst that is supposed to juice up the market. What are you seeing anything? Where are we supposed to look for if anything is to push the market up?
Well, for us, initially we were many analysts and many people out there were saying after elections we'll see interest in Nigeria's equity market, but elections are over. It was peaceful. We didn't see return of both foreign investors and even local investor, sentiment into the market. And if you look at our market at the moment, if you compare us to peers, Nigeria's market is very, very cheap.
Okay.
If you look at most of the banking stocks, the share price of most of those stocks have suffered this year, and they're looking very attractive. But then we've not really seen foreign investor interest in the market. So it's looking more like we need a major catalyst in the market.
Right.
Maybe a repetition of something similar to what happened in 2017.
Right.
When the CBN, opened the foreign exchange market, introduced the higher knee, and we saw that kind of influx. I think we need something similar to that at the moment. But what we on our side, what we tell investors is most of these stocks, the banking names, we have a buy rating on most banking names, and other stocks are even looking attractive at the moment. Dangsem is looking very attractive at the moment.
Right.
So for local investors out there and for other listeners as well, this is the best time to lock in on interesting opportunities in the stock market and just position yourself
long term
ahead of the expected rally we're looking to see.
Okay, cool. I'm glad you mentioned Dangsen, which is Dangote Cement for those that don't know, because Dangote himself, Aliko Dangote, was in Abidjan over the weekend for the Mo Ibrahim 2019 governance weekend. Mo Ibrahim, of course, is the big telecoms giant, another fellow billionaire who started a foundation, invites all the best and brightest in Africa to come and discuss different things. I think they were talking about migration, they were talking about youth employment, they were talking about a number of things. It's this video, we've tweeted it already. You guys can check it out on Twitter. He asked, they talked about some other serious things, but real quick, he asked Dangote when he knew he had money. And Dangote said it was, what was the amount? He said when he withdrew how much?
$10 million.
Yes. Dangote said it was when he withdrew $10 million from his account. He took it home, looked at the money, and went back to the bank and put it back inside.
Let me tell you something, Rotus, just to cut in. When I tried to calculate $10 million in Naira, I used my phone's calculator.
Yes.
It gave error for Naira.
3.6 billion. That's how much he took out of his account. But also, if you're out there, do send messages. Let me know how much you all out there withdrew from your account when you knew you had money. If you want to throw it in there, I don't know. I think I'm okay with about 50 million naira. That's what I know. How much for you? How much you have to withdraw to know you have some money?
Man, I don't want to disclose.
You don't disclose.
No disclosure.
You want to disclose your own?
No. I don't want you guys to start
50 million. I'm okay with 50 million.
While you talk about messages, so you'd like to send your messages. I'm sure many of you have the number, but if it's your first time sending in a message, send to 0809 444 0981. 0809 444 0981. We're on Twitter at Smooth981FM. Please use the hashtag Business Express 981. That video that Rotus was talking about is there.
Yeah.
And we're streaming live on YouTube. You can also ask a question.
Cruz has already said I don't have money. He said, yet. Cruz says I don't have money yet. Cruz, we know you get that money soon. But also seriously though, Dangote did talk about the lack of proper intra-African trade between countries, because Mo Ibrahim was also asking him about expanding Dangote Cement into other countries, issues with the continent. We're trying to make it look like the EU. They talked about the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, which Dangote still opposes. What do you think? We still have issues with intra-African trade, yeah?
Yeah, we do. When you look at, Nigeria's trade breakdown, import, for instance, you discover that our largest import destination is still China.
Right.
China, India, and the likes. And one would I mean, the what you would have expected to see is, for us to see countries like Ghana,
exactly,
for us to see Ivory Coast, and for us to see other countries, but that's not the case here, and it has a lot to do with basic infrastructure. Most of the big companies that you'll expect to come and open up their factory here, that you'll expect to drive trade here, are not really interested in this market because infrastructure is low. We all know about Nigeria's infrastructural deficit, and that's same with other African countries as well. So this speaks a lot, and Dangote also speaking about this. Is the plant, Dangote cement plant in Tanzania is also he has been having this back and forth, with the government as well. And that just speaks a lot about the bad state of intra African trade, and I will expect that the likes of Nigeria and the likes of South Africa, who are the big big players in this economy, I would expect that they should drive, that initiative to boost trade in Africa as well.
Another thing he also mentioned, he was like, when he travels around Africa, you still need visas to go to so many of. You just mentioned South Africa. You can't, none of us can enter South Africa without a visa, and we shouldn't have to need so many visas. Mo Ibrahim, by the way, is a British citizen. I think he's Sudanese or from I think it was Mo Ibrahim is Sudanese, but he also has a British passport, so he can fly up and down wherever he wants. But Dangote again was also complaining about the fact that he goes to so many African countries, he needs visas, so that needs the African Union. I think there's a passport already. That African Union passport.
There's an ECOWAS passport,
right?
Not an African Union.
But not African Union. Yes. So for trade, he used to allow businesses to move up, and businessmen and women to be able to move up and down to facilitate trade. So there's still a lot to work on there.
All right, so we have some comments. Shani here says that Dangote statement can run down a Nigerian bank, so I'm thinking of doing mine too. 5 million naira.
Well, the money went back again, Shani. You just went to check how much just to see, and then you put it back the next day.
Imagine the heart attack of the bank.
I know, right?
All right, IK says what Dangote withdrew is chicken feet compared to what 2 billion vans can carry.
IK, I know you have to go there. You have to go there.
All right, Simia Jai says withdrew 20 million naira once and couldn't believe it.
Wow, Simi, let's talk now.
Ibrahim says, I really can't wait to show my colleagues that video. They are always shaming me for not carrying cash around. Even Dangote did not have a single dollar in his wallet.
Actually, thank you, Ibrahim. That's the second part of the video. So after he said that, Mo Ibrahim now asked Dangote, how much do you have in your pockets right now? And Dangote's like, you'll be shocked. I don't have any money with me. And then Mo Ibrahim said, you see rich people. The rich people, they don't carry any money with them.
They don't carry any money. How much do you have with you, Rotus?
I have some. There's some money there. Maybe like 3K, 5K. That's
Amaka says, I just want to be the FX teller that processed the withdrawal. I know in my heart that Dangote would have said thank you to me. And Dako is saying, I expected the value of pound sterling to be dropping because of the Brexit issue, but seems the effect is not so much. Please, what's the reason for this stability? Because I was looking at tapping into this.
Great question, Dako. Dako, the thing is, from what people are looking at, the Theresa May's government doesn't seem to have made up its mind on how to proceed with Brexit. Her Tory MPs, which are the Conservatives in the UK that are supposed to be supporting her, have I think this is the third or fourth time that they've rejected the proposals that she's put forward. So that plea deal. So right now, it looks like they're asking for the EU to extend more time. So the way the markets are looking at it, they're like, these guys haven't made up their mind. The markets essentially have priced in the little bit of confusion that's going on, and they're like, it doesn't seem to like there's going to be any near-term resolution with regards to Brexit. So I think all the confusion with the pound seems to has petered out. That's the reason why there seems to be stability. That's my speculative idea as to what's going on. I don't you have any idea on what's happening?
And also the fact that before now, the market was pricing in the possibility of a second referendum.
Right.
But that went into the House and they voted against it.
Yeah.
So, and the second referendum might just be the worst that can happen to them. So since they're looking to extend, and we might see an extension which will make them come up with a deal that will be agreeable to both parties. They might actually have a soft landing. So,
that's why.
I guess that's why for me, I think it might also add to why the pound hasn't moved that much.
Cool.
All right, thank you very much, Damilola. Now, Benga comment says, apart from infrastructure, regulations task businessmen dry, and there is no transparency about some of the rules. So businessmen must have a lion heart.
Good point.
And then Rainmaker says, local investor like me are still disinterested in the stock market. There's almost no incentive to put your money in stocks now. We basically do not know when the market will rally, except you want to play the market like some did during during the earning session, early earning session. Fixed income still give a good incentive than stocks. I am still expecting the lag to close up so that the 50 basis points the MPC removed from MPR can kick in.
All right. So Rainmaker is, I mean, it seems that some funds have moved to fixed income, yeah?
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah.
Not even some.
Okay,
You know, the fixed income market has rallied a lot. If you check bond yields now, they are trading at about 2-year low.
Yeah.
We speak to the fact that we've seen lots of interest in that space.
Going in that way.
You know, but I'll still say it again. You know,
market is cheap.
when you have times like this, there will always be catalyst. You know, in some months' time, in a year's time, too, it's very, very good for you to position
yourself now.
You know, for that rally.
And talk to ARM, so please. Remember, before we give any advice here, please do your due diligence. Talk to an expert before buying any stocks. All right.
Shani says, please, that ECOWAS passport is the most useless community passport. The Nigerian passport is better than it. That's what Shani said.
Shani, come on now. All right. Let's see now. Okay. Another thing Dangote mentioned. He talked about how since they were in Abidjan in Cote d'Ivoire, he was like, that exports. I think he was talking about the recent relationship between us and the West when it comes to the value of our exports and what they use it for. Yeah. So he said that Cote d'Ivoire, for example, I think they're the largest cocoa exporter in Africa. The figure I think he gave was $6 billion worth of cocoa exports from Ivory Coast. Yet the chocolate industry, from which cocoa is the main ingredient for chocolate, over $100 billion. And Ivory Coast, we should be all getting more money from all this type of thing.
Wow, I don't even know what to make up of that.
Are we rounding up? Real quick.
Yeah, really, you will expect that, you know, Cote d'Ivoire being one of the biggest exporter of cocoa, you will also expect that, you know, that value chain will extend and they will also be the biggest producer of chocolate. Yeah. But we are not seeing that come to play. And the same thing with Nigeria as well. You'll be surprised that the deficit in sugar is very large. Right. And deficit in palm oil is very large. And up to now, we've not done a lot, you know, to bridge that gap. So there are lots of opportunity in Africa.
To capitalize.
And we just have to capitalize it, and it's only a matter of time. I hope.
We're optimistic.
I'm hopeful. Thank you so much
from ARM. Thank you for joining us.
And thank you very much, Rotus. Join Rotus again tomorrow morning, 6:45. Unfortunately, time seems to speed very quickly when he's on air.
I know, right?
We're doing something about it very soon. But Lagos, we're still here, 7:30. It's freshly pressed 981 here on Smooth 90.